Hello and welcome to Ski Lodge. My family and I are on a mission to explore and document 100 different Colorado communities, and this month we went back to Trinidad. In today's video, I'll explain Trinidad's history and geography, as well as let you know what we found and what to expect if you go there. Let's get started. Trinidad's history is well documented. I'll try to keep it brief, but I found a lot of information. Trinidad was initially inhabited by the Ute Indians and occasionally other tribes as well. In the 1540s, the Spanish made several journeys through the area, eventually claiming the land south of the Arkansas River for Spain. In 1607, Santa Fe was built as the capital of northern New Spain, and it became the center of Sangre de Cristo settlement, slowly spreading north into the Trinidad area and beyond. In 1673, France claimed the Mississippi River and all of its tributaries, including the Purgatoire, naming it Louisiana after the king. This claim was disputed by Spain, who didn't officially recognize Louisiana until 1800. 3 years later, the Louisiana Purchase made the land American. Even then, the area immediately south of the Arkansas River was in a gray zone, being claimed by both America and Spain, but the Raton Range was often considered a good physical boundary. Spain refused to trade with America, but after independence in 1821, Mexico welcomed it, and thus came the Santa Fe Trail connecting to Missouri. The mountain branch of this trail followed the Arkansas and Purgatoire rivers to Raton Pass, bringing the first Americans to the area. Bent's Old Fort was later opened 70 miles northeast in 1834. At first, Raton Pass was difficult to cross, but in 1846, during the Mexican-American War, the U.S. Army led an effort to occupy northern Mexico, vastly improving road conditions as they progressed. The mission was a success, and 2 years later the war ended with everything west of Texas becoming part of America. With people legally able to head west, traffic on the Santa Fe and many other trails increased during the 1850s, bringing Trinidad's first prominent families, Baca and Gutierrez. Baca was a rancher, and Gutierrez owned the only store in the Purgatoire Valley. Together they headed development of a town site that was completed in 1862. Gutierrez picked the name Trinidad, which means Trinity in Spanish, and though it's widely believed to be named after one of Baca's daughters, it's most likely a simple religious reference. Coal was discovered nearby in 1864, setting off a mining boom. The next year, Uncle Dick Wooten added tolls to both sides of Raton Pass, which he used to further improve road conditions. In 1866, Los Animas County was created and Trinidad was made the seat. In 1876, just months before Colorado statehood, Trinidad was incorporated, at the time the third largest town in the state after Denver and Central City. Trinidad was connected by train via El Morro the same year, and within 3 years of that, the rails ran through the pass into New Mexico, ending the Santa Fe Trail. Mining grew exponentially in the 1880s, with trains now making it easy to transport goods and workers. By 1888, Trinidad was large enough to justify an interurban streetcar system, with trams running to Starkville and Ingleville. The 1890s saw the construction of Trinidad's most important buildings like City Hall, the library, and post office. Trinidad stayed strong in the 1900s despite a mining gas explosion, mining strike, and downtown fire. Mining was disrupted again by the CF&I strike in 1913, stopping work and increasing tension with the company, eventually leading to the Ludlow Massacre 17 miles north. During World War I, European workers filled in at the mines for drafted Americans, leading to a high Slavic population in Trinidad even today. The state line area peaked in the 20s with a population of nearly 60,000 people. As cars grew in popularity, Trinidad's streetcar system was closed, and the roads were laid with bricks, making it the first city in Colorado to be paved. Trinidad remained prominent as Colorado's fifth largest city in 1930. In fact, it was a popular destination during Prohibition, with gangsters like Al Capone frequenting Trinidad and Aguilar, using their underground tunnels to move hooch. It not only made for a good place to cool down from law enforcement, but was halfway between their operations in Chicago and Las Vegas. The 1940s looked promising at first, with World War II taking up most of the time, but when the war ended, Trinidad entered decline. This was primarily caused by the energy shift from coal to natural gas, but was reinforced when the young men of the war never returned, seeking better opportunities elsewhere. In fact, this sudden exodus is the reason Trinidad has so many Victorian buildings compared to other Colorado towns. They simply couldn't afford to build new at the time. By the 60s, most stores were vacant and dozens of buildings became abandoned, and that's how Trinidad has sat for over half a century. There was interest shown when Stanley Biber, a retired surgeon from Fort Carson, moved to Trinidad in 1969. He conducted a few gender reassignment surgeries and, following success, began performing them exclusively, up to 4 per day. Trinidad became known as the sex change capital of the world due to this, a title it still has today despite the practice being moved to California in 2010 following his death. In 2008, hoping to capitalize on out-of-state traffic, CDOT rebuilt I-25 through Trinidad, widening the road as well as creating a river walking park along the Purgatoire. In 2011, the track fire burned 28,000 acres in Raton Pass. In 2013, marijuana was legalized in Colorado and Trinidad began booming again. With close proximity to New Mexico, an illegal state, tourism has been way up with people coming to visit the Weed Mall, a section of commercial and main streets filled with dispensaries. Today, Trinidad is still the core of the state line region, with new businesses and growth being seen all around. Best of all, it still maintains its small-town charm, being clean and quiet on street level. The future contains a bit more growth as people not only realize the beauty of the local landscape, but overflow out of other crowded Colorado cities looking to slow down. Trinidad is located in Los Animas County, only 11 miles north of New Mexico at 6,010 feet. It has a city population of only 9,300, but remains the core of the state line area, a micropolitan district with 30,000 people. The region is accessed using I-25, which runs north-south connecting Trinidad to Raton, Aguilar, Walsenburg, and Pueblo. US 160 runs east, with US 350 splitting from that to La Junta. Colorado 12 heads west and is known as the Highway of Legends. It passes through one of the state's most beautiful and historic areas on its way to La Vida, where several former mining towns can be seen, as well as natural features like the Dakota Wall, Culebra Range, and Spanish Peaks. It's also a top choice for seeing the fall colors in October. The Purgatoire River flows east out of the mountains, where it is dammed to form Trinidad Lake. Beyond the dam, you'll find the confluence of Raton Creek, then Trinidad itself, which is nestled in between the hills at the mouths of Raton Pass and the Purgatoire Canyon. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains wrap around Trinidad on three sides, with Fisher's Peak and the mesas of Raton Range to the south, and nothing but open prairie to the east. The town is split by the river, with the northwest side being primarily residential on a north-south grid pattern, and the southeast side sitting parallel to the river containing the bulk of services. The weather in Trinidad is typical for the Colorado Front Range, with warm summers and mild winters. A typical July day will reach low 90s and then drop into the 60s overnight. Trinidad experiences Colorado's annual monsoon season that brings weekly or even daily thunderstorms from June to August. Its proximity to the mountains means there's an increased chance for hail, but minimal chance for tornadoes. It also means Trinidad has slightly above average precipitation with 18 total inches annually, the second highest along I-25 after the Palmer Divide. Fall and spring are usually comfortable with highs in the 60s. Winter stays mild thanks to Trinidad's location in the Pinyon Juniper Zone, with highs typically reaching the 40s and lows in the teens. Snow comes in bursts, and though most days are comfortable and sunny, conditions can change fast. Throughout the season, the city sees 63 inches of snow, more than Denver or Colorado Springs, but it melts quickly in direct sunlight. The tree-covered hills surrounding Trinidad make wildfires a constant concern. The track fire burned 28,000 acres in Raton Pass in 2011, and the spring fire burned 108,000 near La Vida in 2018. Earthquakes happen periodically as well, with the largest being a 5.3 in 2011, but many smaller ones still happening annually. Many blame this on the widespread fracking west of town. Trinidad was actually the first town we visited when I started this channel, and we returned in hopes of providing redemption for the terrible water testing video it received the first time. In decent weather, the drive from Pueblo is always relaxing, and we soon arrived in Trinidad after an hour and 40 minutes. We parked in the lot across from the Toyota dealership and started walking Commercial Street. Paired with Main Street, this is the core of central Trinidad and the location of the city's most ornate Victorian buildings. Dozens of shops lined the sidewalk with apartments above some, and everything was decorated for the holidays. We went south, passing a large Christmas setup on the corner of Plum in front of a large abandoned church. The sound of cars driving on the brick roads made up the background noise. We kept walking uphill towards Main, where First National Bank came into view. Continuously operated since 1892, this bank is the tallest building in the downtown area, looming over the busy intersection of Main and Commercial. We turned east on Main, where most of Trinidad's restaurants and bars are located, passing several delicious options as we went. Statues and vintage street lamps lined the road. After a few blocks, the buildings began to spread out, and we passed the Trinidad Post Office, Baca House, Chappelle House, and Bloom Mansion. We crossed the street, climbing an extra block to First so we could check out the county courthouse, which we walked around before admiring the view looking towards Simpson's Rest. Back on Main, we turned west looking for food, which we found in a building called the Bell Block. Inside is a mall setup with Mission at the Bell restaurant downstairs. It had a relaxing atmosphere with great food and staff, hitting the spot for us to continue. We then crossed the street to visit the Coal Miners Memorial. After that, we made our way down Covent Street, where we found Trinidad's Holy Trinity Church, one of the city's most beautiful buildings. Behind this is a massive abandoned warehouse looking straight out of a scary movie. Half a block beyond that was Semino Park, where we would let the kids burn out their energy on the 2-story tall playground. This park was created during the highway expansion and sits next to the Riverwalk right in the middle of town. It's well maintained but lacks covered seating, not that the kids cared about that, they were just excited to climb to the top. Before heading home, we wanted to check out Trinidad Lake, so we drove down County Road 18.3, which enters the park and crosses the dam. The views from this road were great, and though there were no pull-offs, we enjoyed looking down at both the Purgatoire Valley and the lake itself. Once across and back in town, we made our way north to Simpson's Rest, the town's scenic overlook. At the top, you'll find Trinidad's large Hollywood-esque sign. Next to that is the grave of George Simpson, a Colorado frontiersman. Fisher's Peak and the rest of Raton Range make a beautiful background of the buildings and streets of Trinidad below. It's a great place to take a break, which we did before jumping back on the highway and heading home. Trinidad is a true Wild West town, once told to have the most frontier style of living in the whole of Colorado Territory. This is apparent in every detail, from the Santa Fe Trail to the coke ovens and the gangsters of the Prohibition to the marijuana boom seen today. It's a place of change and acceptance, a place to simultaneously slow down and follow your wildest dreams. On street level, Trinidad is stunningly beautiful for a former Colorado coal mining town. Most of the old Victorian buildings and houses have been restored to their former glory, and the brick streets are one of a kind, setting apart the already eccentric town. Don't mistake it for being another flat suburb in the prairie either. Trinidad is surrounded by amazing natural beauty, completing something on everyone's checklist. But let's not forget the downsides. Being recently depressed means it's still a bit run down. Its location close to state lines makes it popular for vagrants, and as a small town it lacks certain amenities, with the closest big city, Pueblo, being nearly 2 hours north. But that's about it. Overall, we found Trinidad to be charming and eclectic. It has been ranked among the 16 other towns we have been to so far, and here's where we've placed it based on our experiences and opinions. We hope you enjoyed exploring Trinidad with us and that you'll join us next time when we visit a regional town, one with a very similar background founded in mining. We'll see you next time in Walsenburg, Colorado.